ranges, when we pick our targets, generally the targets are humanoid of some sort. We might have some bullseyes, etc. But all of them have one thing in common. They usually have a center that has a color that we are focusing on, right? So if it's a bullseye, bullseye is usually red or black, and then there's either white color around it or etc. So our minds are focusing in on that. Well, what you're going to notice is you don't have that on these targets. Do you want to know why? Anybody take a guess? Yes, and the bad guy's probably not going to have a bullseye, right? Now, I know that we're into, what is it, Captain America's new movie came out and stuff, so you may have a bullseye, right?
Target employees.
Exactly. But for the most part, they got solid, right? Now, the benefit of is for people who have, for example, like white lettering, you see Hollister, right? Or whatever it is, a football team. You're going to aim for those letters because you know that that's the center of the chest, right? That's generally where it is. Or if they've got a picture, you're going to aim for that picture. But always remember focusing in on that. So the first thing you're going to learn in here is you don't have that benefit because, again, you don't know if they're going to have a solid colored shirt or not. All right? What you are going to do, though, is you're going to focus in on your first shot. Your first shot becomes your bullseye. Now, that doesn't mean when you shoot the shot, you're constantly looking, okay, there's my bullseye, I'm looking at it, now I'm going to continue going. I want you to focus on that first sight, but I want to see how you shoot out of the box. From there, I'm going to start maybe changing some things that you do depending on where those shots are. Again, don't worry about your neighbor. Now, you are really close to your neighbor, right? Some of you are going to get hit with brass, and there's a reason for that.
Should have sat on that side.
Because in a gunfight, it's probably not going to be very pretty. And you might have stuff being thrown at you. You might have stuff just go. There's all sorts of things. So you need to get used to being around somebody who's also shooting for things that are coming at you. All right? But we also need to be mindful of safety. That's why I say at all times the gun is always pointed towards the target. When we're in retention ready, that gun is pointed straight that way. It's not pointed to the left or to the right. It is straight towards the target. All right? So if my target was in this direction, my gun is pointed in that direction. All right, if you're low ready, it is towards the ground, not really at the feet, but essentially a little bit in front of the feet towards the ground. Does that make sense?
Index.
Yeah. All right, and open time or keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to use it. Right? Shooting is just like pointing. That's all it is an extension of your finger. Wherever your finger is, that's essentially where your gun's going to be. Right? So if I'm pointing at my target, my gun's pointing in that same thing. Wherever your finger is, that's where your muzzle's going to be. So if your finger's pointed this way, guess where your muzzle is? Same direction. Alright? So I will try to yell as much as I can so that way you can hear me. Alright? But most of the time when I do certain commands, if I'm working with you, I'm going to be right behind you. So is Manny. Alright? So what I want you to do first, we're going to load and make ready when I tell you. Then the first command I'm going to give you is I want 5 shots as slow and as fast as you can for them all touching each other in the center of the chest. That's going to give you a baseline as to where everybody is with pistol handling. All right, does that make sense? All right, so here we go. I want your eyes and ears on. Put mine on real quick. All right, so the first command is load and make ready. That means you're going to take your firearm out, pointing towards your targets, put your magazine in, chamber your first round, and put it right back. And you're going to go into low ready. Yeah, low ready. We're not going to holster yet. Remember, don't worry about speed. Take your time. I want you to remain safe. This might be the first time that you're actually using your pistol, and so that's what we're doing. Sometimes, there you go. Sometimes you really got to push it. Good job. Good job. All right, everybody's in low ready and loaded, right?
Yes.
All right, so here we go. I'm going to want 5 shots into the center of your target, as slow but as fast as you can, making sure they're hitting the same location. Shooters ready.
Ready.
Yes.
Ready.
Fire. Take your time. Don't worry about your neighbor. Try to go ahead and squeeze it all the way back. It's got a hard trigger pull. All right. So what may have happened is... Okay, go ahead, try it. Go ahead and finish up. Take your time. Don't worry about everybody else. It might be the magazine.
Okay.
All right, let me try real quick to see if it is. All right, so here's what I want you to do. With the smaller guns, what tends to happen is if you don't have a really, really good grip, the slide doesn't go all the way back.
Okay.
It'll go back enough to kick out around, but it doesn't feed the next one in, and that's what's happening.
Okay.
So go ahead, you're gonna point towards the target. I'm gonna take your finger.
What?
I'm gonna bring it
thank
through
you.
here. I'm gonna move this hand forward just a bit, just this hand. So move it forward, there you go. I don't want any gap in here, so you're gonna try to take this gun and put it as far down. There you go, just like that. All right, you want that sitting right in that hand. And with this hand,
It came
you're gonna
off.
squeeze the two together.
Okay.
The
Go
holster?
ahead and try that. See
I
if
imagine
you
it wasn't
can do 3
clipped on
more
all the
rounds
way.
on that.
It is. Your pants are coated in Teflon.
There you go.
Nice.
Fair enough. Fair
There
enough.
you go.
Awesome.
All right, everybody back in low ready. Okay, so that gives me a baseline, right? So the first thing we had is we had a little bit of an issue of a grip, which is good. So I'm going to show that. Here's what I want everyone to do if you can. Go ahead and holster.
It's got to be
All right.
paid.
Perfect. All right, so I'm going to come into the front of the line real quick. So we talked about 3 fundamentals of shooting, right? So we're really talking about, we're going to do grip and stance. So grip. Most people, so here's what I'm going to show you. I have my firearm. I'm going to confirm.
Yes.
It's not loaded, no magazine. Not loaded, no magazine. Not loaded, no magazine. The reason why I do that is I'm going to point it toward you. Sounds good. So here's the issue, all right? So let's talk about grip. Grip, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure the gun is all the way into your hand, so your shooting hand. You don't want to have any gap in here whatsoever. The reason for that is you're going to have a malfunction because the gun has its own job. The spring that's inside of it has its own job. And if you allow that gun to move inside of your hand at all, you are stopping the slide moving all the way to the rear. That's important because when you fire a round, you're going to get 1 round off, but that slide will only go halfway. It doesn't go all the way to the back. So it will sometimes kick out that round, but when it moves forward, it hasn't gone all the way back to push in the next round. So on your grip, you want to have your hand as high up underneath the tang as possible without allowing that slide to actually hit it. All right. Now, some of your guns, you may have to do things like I have a grip force adapter because the fat of my hand, when I grab that gun, always goes to the top and that slide cuts it. Right. So I have a permanent scar from it. So you want it as high up as you can. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your fingers and you're just going to curl them right over, putting your index finger above the trigger guard. The reason why we do above the trigger guard is because natural reaction of your body when it gets scared is to clench its fist. If I were to put my finger anywhere near the trigger guard and somebody were to come behind me and actually scare me, it'd be very easy for me to put my finger inside. Whereas if I'm above it, some people actually have an aggravated angle where they'll put it almost on the top of the slide. All right? But whatever you do, you want that finger off of the trigger. You want a good firm grip. You're not white knuckling it, right? So you're not getting white knuckles. You're not doing it to the point where that gun is shaking in your hand. Right? The grip comes from your support hand. It does not come from your shooting hand. That sounds contrary to what everybody has taught and what you think physics should say. And I'm going to explain to you why. Right? The next drill that I'm going to have you do, so you can see that we have groupings together. So 7, 6, 5, we had some issues with the grip. We fixed the grip and the last 2 shots are right here. All right? Same thing. We've got good groupings in here. Same thing. We're a little low. That's okay. We're going to work on that, as well as you'll see in the top of the box. So we've got good groupings, 5 shots. This next go around to prove my point as to why you do not grip with your shooting hand. This one, you are going to shoot with just 3 fingers. That's it. Because these are the only 3 fingers you need to use on that gun. Will it recoil? Yes. Is it going to fall out of your hand? No. All guns recoil. It's a matter of mastering that. All right? So literally with 3 fingers, the only 3 fingers you need are your thumb, your middle finger, and your index finger. Your thumb and your middle finger are actually what's holding onto the gun. Now this might be physically hard because you notice my fingers want to curl around it. If that's the case, put them right underneath like this, but you're not going to grip the actual gun. All right? Your index finger, you're actually going to fire. All right? Now here's the other thing I'm going to make you do. Does anybody not know what resetting the trigger is? Okay. Good. I'm going to tell you anyway, even if you all didn't know. Resetting the trigger means, remember I talked about most people when they fire the gun, they go bang, they let it all the way out, and their finger, they go back and forth, back and forth. When you do that, you're actually turning the gun in one direction. Because, for example, you'll notice, so watch my gun. If I'm a right-hander and I squeeze, where does the gun go?
Left.
Correct. If I'm a left-hander, where does it go?
Right.
Right. So has anybody shoot at the range and notice that their shots are low and to the left?
Mm-hmm.
That's why. That's one reason. All right. The reason it is low has to do again with your body physics. The reason it is low is because out of your 5 fingers, these 3 control the tendons that are essentially from the middle of your wrist to the top. These 2 control the rest of them. Now, if you actually were to take your hand, look at your forearm, wiggle your 3 fingers, you'll notice that the top half of your tendons will actually move. You're moving all of them. Only move the first 3.
Just joking.
Now, move just the last 2. Do you notice how much more on the bottom your tendons are moving your hand?
Mm.
You'll see them more here than you do with the other. This is your low part of your shooting. We all have this pulse. When we go to shoot, the last thing we do is we squeeze because we know that it's going to go bang and we know there's going to be recoil. That last squeeze on that bottom part, see what happens to my forearm? That's more than if I squeeze with my top 3. There's your go. It literally dips the gun. Your left has to deal with trigger, meaning that my finger is too far away on the trigger. So if, for example, you're in the middle of your box, but you're shooting low, it's because you're shooting pulse. Now this is something most people don't teach. I do because I know I have a problem with it. And I found out everybody else does too. So we're going to show you how those 2 fingers are the ones that screw up your shooting. All right? And then I'm going to show you how to correct it. So here's what I want you to do on this go around. When I say get in low ready, you're going to take your guns out, get in low ready. You are only going to hold your gun with 3 fingers. Just these 3, okay? When you go to shoot, you are going to shoot one-handed with just those 3 fingers. So you are literally going to point towards the target. You are going to fire your round. We talked about resetting, right? We say, well, people slap. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to squeeze, hold that trigger back. It will cycle. We don't have fully automatic weapons, so it's not going to continue shooting. It will cycle, slowly let your trigger out till you hear and feel a click. That's your reset. That's the moment that it can fire again without letting it go. Notice on my trigger, there's my reset, but if I let it go, see that movement? There's movement, all right? Now for you, you don't have it, so try to get as best as you can because the bodyguard's just not made that way. Everybody else does.
Got a long reset on.
All right, so if yours is a long reset, what you're gonna do is when you let it all the way out, slowly bring that trigger back and you're gonna feel where it starts to push against you. So you'll notice that there's where mine pushes against because I can squeeze it from there. All right, so you're gonna try to do that. Slowly let it out. If you happen to let it all the way out, you're like, oh shit, I let it out. Slowly pull it back till that gives you that first resistance. One-handed, 3 fingers. I want 3 shots. 1, 2, 3. Trying to do your reset. All right, does that make sense? Cool. All right,
I will need to swap magazines for the last
all right,
one.
make sure you have eyes and ears on. Let's shove mine in.
Just hand your mag back
All right,
to me
make
so
sure
you don't
line's
drop it in the
dressed.
dirt.
Good. So
Okay,
we're all
good.
the same. All right, go ahead. On holsters, go in low rest position. You're only going to use 3 fingers. If your fingers happen to try to go to the gun, you're going to curl them behind the grip. So they're not actually holding the grip. It's really hard. All right. 3 shots to the chest. Actually, 3 shots to the chest. Dead center. All right. Shooters ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Fire. Take your time. All right, go ahead and holster. So for some of you, for example, we've got Smith & Wesson Bodyguard. All right. All right. Cool. So you can go ahead and have it. I know that it's empty. All right. So we've got a Smith & Wesson Bodyguard. Has a really, really long trigger pull. All right. So it's kind of hard to do that one. But what you'll notice for those of you that have done it, you've got essentially 3 shots that are pretty much touching each other. You may have some movement because I asked you to do 2 things you've never done before: shoot with one hand and shoot and reset the trigger. But when you start looking at it, so we've got West, same thing, right? So we've got shots that are right on top of each other. That's to show you that most people, when they shoot, it's that right hand or that dominant hand that's creating that low and left, right? So then the question is well, what do I do, right? Because you can't shoot with 3 fingers. But what do I do? Simply, by using the 3 fingers, what I'm trying to show you is that you don't really need these 2. The only thing that this hand does is basically hold the gun so that I can't take it away from you. But that's it, right? I'm not gripping it so hard that I'm going to just hold it. That's all. That birthday party, he's like, it's 10:30, nobody's here yet. Too bad, so sad. Alright, so what do I do with my second hand? Here's the way the grip is. My wife came up with an ingenious way to do it, and we teach it to everyone. Most people, when they go to grab the gun, right, I'm going to show it to you left-handed since you all are on my right side so you can see what it looks like. They go to grab the gun and they literally take their hand and all they do is they just put it right over. A lot of times they'll fold their thumbs like this, and this is how they fire. There's a problem. Ergonomically, you're not doing anything. You notice my second hand? Do I have my hand all the way on the gun? No, there's a huge gap right here. So what you're trying to do is, recoil goes to the path of least resistance. As a right-hander, where's the resistance on the gun? On the right side, right? Alright, as a left-hander, where is the resistance on the gun? Left side. Right, so if it's going to the path of least resistance as a right-hander, where do you think the recoil is going to go? If all my resistance is on the right. Yeah, so now we need to balance that. So in order to make sure that gun doesn't move in one way direction, I've got to make sure I have equal pressure on both sides. Right? But the problem is I need to make sure I have equal pressure on the entire gun, not my hand. So by just taking my other hand and putting it right on top, all I'm doing is gripping my other hand. I'm not gripping the gun. So what we're going to do is, my wife, as I said, came up with an ingenious idea, and she basically said, you're going to use your, hey, nice to meet you, hand. Right? If we go to shake someone's hand, do we shake someone's hand with it straight towards them, or is it bent towards the floor? It's bent towards the floor, right? When you go to shake, hey, how you doing? It's got that angle. Well, if you notice on the gun, is it